The brightest stars can burn out in the most unexpected ways. We remember them as immortal, forever young and wealthy, but the reality behind the screen is often one of struggle and decline. Today, we explore the twilight years of Hollywood's golden age icons, giants who faced their final curtain in poverty. From poor financial decisions to exploitation and personal demons, their stories reveal the human cost of fame. Join me as we uncover the unvarnished truth behind the legends who died with nothing. Judy Garland, once the darling of Hollywood, saw her fortune slip away through mismanagement, addiction, and relentless debt. Once adored by millions, she found herself struggling to pay for even the most basic necessities. She was forced to borrow money from friends just to afford rent and groceries, her fame offering little protection from the harsh realities of financial ruin. Garland lost her home, her treasured possessions, and was hounded by creditors. Eviction notices and overdue bills became a constant presence in her life. Once gracing the grandest stages, she now performed in small, smoky clubs for meager pay, her voice echoing in half-empty rooms. At times she could not afford proper medical care, and her health suffered. The emotional toll of losing her home and security weighed heavily on her. In her final years, Judy was seen sitting alone in empty theaters, gazing at old photographs, haunted by memories of a life that seemed impossibly far away. When she died, her estate was worth almost nothing, completely eclipsed by debt. Garland's tragic end stands as a stark reminder of how even the brightest stars can be left with nothing. Bela Lugosi's Dracula defined horror for generations, but his fame became a curse. Typecast and underpaid, Lugosi missed out on lucrative deals and struggled with addiction. Expensive divorces and a morphine habit drained his resources. By the 1950s, he was reduced to low-budget films, working for paltry sums. Publicly admitting his addiction was brave, but it did little to revive his career. When he died in 1956, Lugosi lived in a small apartment with few possessions. His bank account held less than $2,000, far outweighed by debts. He was, for all intents and purposes, insolvent. Lugosi wished to be buried in his Dracula cape. Friends covered his funeral expenses. The Prince of Darkness, an aristocrat on screen, died with almost nothing. His legacy endures, but his final years were marked by poverty and struggle. A tragic end for a cinematic icon. Billie Holiday, Lady Day, a name synonymous with soulful expression and heartbreaking beauty. Her voice, a unique instrument, resonated with audiences across the globe, leaving an indelible mark on the world of jazz. She had a voice that could break your heart, a voice that told stories of pain, resilience, and the complexities of the human experience. Each note was imbued with raw emotion, captivating listeners and drawing them into her world. She performed with jazz legends, the likes of Count Basie and Duke Ellington, and sold millions of records, solidifying her place as one of the most influential vocalists of all time. Her records topped the charts, her concerts sold out, and her name became a household word. But behind the glamour and the accolades, her life was marked by hardship, a constant struggle against adversity that ultimately defined her tragic story. The spotlight often hid the shadows that haunted her. Addiction and exploitation were constant companions, preying on her vulnerabilities and exacerbating her already difficult circumstances. These forces conspired to rob her of her peace and her financial security. These factors left her finances in chaos, a tangled web of debts and unpaid bills that seemed impossible to unravel. The mismanagement of her earnings became a recurring theme in her life. Despite earning millions throughout her career, a considerable sum for the time, she saw little of it. Swindled by managers who took advantage of her trusting nature and lack of business acumen. These individuals lined their own pockets at her expense. Much of her income was also spent on her addiction, a relentless cycle that drained her resources and further complicated her life. The addiction became a monster that consumed everything in its path. Legal troubles stemming from her addiction and the revocation of her cabaret card, a crucial permit for performing in New York City clubs, effectively cut off her main source of income, leaving her struggling to make ends meet. The loss of this card was a devastating blow to her career. Forced to tour relentlessly, often in grueling conditions, just to survive, her health deteriorated rapidly, weakened by years of substance abuse and the constant strain of performing. The road took its toll on her fragile body. Her signature song, Strange Fruit, a powerful protest against racial injustice, brought her widespread acclaim for its artistic merit and social commentary, but it also stirred controversy and drew unwanted attention from authorities. The song became a symbol of resistance and a target for censorship. In her final days, weakened and vulnerable, she was arrested on her deathbed for drug possession, a prisoner in her last moments, a tragic and undignified end for a woman who had given so much to the world. Even in death, she was not free from persecution. Reports say she had just 70 cents to her name at the time of her death, a stark contrast to the millions she had earned throughout her career. Her estate was left in shambles, a complex legal battleground with little to show for her years of hard work and artistic genius. The debts outweighed any remaining assets, leaving her family and loved ones with a financial burden and a painful reminder of her struggles. The voice that generated millions, that captivated audiences and moved hearts, was silenced forever, with no fortune left to show for it, a devastating testament to the exploitation and hardship she endured. Billie Holiday's artistry lives on, her music continuing to inspire and move generations of listeners, but her financial legacy serves as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the importance of financial literacy and protection against exploitation. A brilliant talent, a true icon of jazz, undone by a system eager to take advantage of her vulnerability, leaving behind a legacy of both artistic triumph and financial tragedy. Veronica Lake was the epitome of 1940s Hollywood glamour, her peekaboo hairstyle a national sensation. At her peak, she earned a fortune, but her life was marked by instability and addiction. Diagnosed with schizophrenia and struggling with alcoholism, her career collapsed swiftly. Lawsuits, unpaid taxes, and bankruptcy followed. By the 1960s, she was discovered working as a barmaid, far from the spotlight. A brief resurgence brought little lasting change. Her health declined and she lived in obscurity, deeply in debt. When she died at 50, her estate was minimal, unable to cover her debts. Veronica Lake's final years were a stark contrast to her heyday, a cautionary tale of a star who shone brightly, then vanished. Her story is a reminder of how quickly fame can fade. The glamour was fleeting, the struggle, enduring. A Hollywood icon, lost to time and circumstance. Sammy Davis Jr. was a dazzling entertainer and a trailblazer, earning millions and living lavishly. His generosity was legendary, but so was his spending. Poor management, bad investments, and a massive tax burden haunted him. Years of ignoring the IRS led to devastating consequences. Racism fueled his desire to live large, but it also left him vulnerable. As his health failed, the scale of his financial crisis became clear. Diagnosed with throat cancer, he worked to the end, trying to pay off debts. When he died in 1990, his widow inherited up to $7 million in IRS debt. His estate was auctioned off, almost everything seized. Years of legal battles followed just to settle the debt. Sammy Davis Jr. gave joy to millions but died nearly erased by debt. The Candyman's final bill was bitter indeed, a legend's legacy nearly lost to financial ruin. Frances Farmer's story is one of Hollywood's most harrowing. A rising star, she was intelligent, rebellious, and unwilling to conform. Her outspokenness and erratic behavior led to institutionalization. Nearly a decade in asylum stripped her of rights, identity, and finances. Her earnings were controlled by others, used to pay for her care. After release, she worked menial jobs, her career and fortune erased. A brief comeback brought some stability, but the trauma lingered. She died in 1970 with a modest estate, her potential stolen by the system. Frances Farmer's life was systematically dismantled. Not a tale of extravagance, but of a talent crushed by conformity. Her story is a warning about the cost of challenging the system. A brilliant actress left with little but her legacy. Mickey Rooney was a Hollywood institution, a name synonymous with the golden age of cinema. His remarkable career spanned nearly a century, an almost unbelievable feat in the fickle world of entertainment. From silent films to modern television, he saw it all. He earned millions as a child star, a prodigious talent captivating audiences with his energy and charm. He was America's sweetheart, a box office sensation. But behind the bright lights and adoring fans, his finances were tragically mismanaged, a common story for many young stars of the era. And his fortune was bled dry by a combination of gambling debts and costly divorces. A series of unfortunate personal choices further eroded his wealth. Multiple bankruptcies followed, a stark contrast to the lavish lifestyle he once enjoyed. The headlines screamed of financial ruin, a public humiliation for the once beloved star. And so he worked constantly, taking on any role he could find just to stay afloat and keep his head above water. The relentless pursuit of work became a necessity, not a choice. In his final years, he bravely revealed he was a victim of elder abuse, a shocking revelation that exposed the dark underbelly of Hollywood. His assets were systematically stripped by those closest to him, The very people who should have been protecting him. A betrayal that cut deep. A court finally intervened, recognizing the injustice and attempting to rectify the situation. Legal battles ensued, a desperate fight to reclaim what was rightfully his. But tragically, most of his remaining wealth was already gone, irretrievably lost to those who had exploited him. The damage was done. When he died in 2014, the world mourned the loss of a legend, but the reality was stark. His estate was valued at just $18,000, a pittance compared to the millions he had earned throughout his career. He owed back taxes and mounting medical bills, leaving his estate completely insolvent, unable to cover its debts. A final indignity. Even his funeral expenses were covered by a small pre-existing insurance policy, a far cry from the grand farewell one might expect for a Hollywood icon. Rooney's story is a heartbreaking end to a legendary life, a cautionary tale of the perils of fame and fortune. A star who brought immeasurable joy to millions around the world, a true entertainer in every sense of the word. He ultimately left with nothing tangible, a stark reminder of the fleeting nature of wealth and celebrity. His legacy serves as a poignant reminder of the inherent dangers associated with fame and fortune, the potential for exploitation, and the importance of financial prudence. The very industry that built him up, transforming him into a global icon, ultimately left him destitute and vulnerable. A cautionary tale for all who follow in his footsteps, a warning to protect themselves and their hard-earned wealth. These stories are more than cautionary tales. They are human tragedies behind Hollywood's glittering facade. Exploitation, addiction, and misfortune stripped these icons of the security they earned. Their final financial statements reveal profound loss, a stark contrast to their on-screen glamour. Let us remember them for their artistry, not their tragic ends. By honoring their full stories, we pay true homage to their legacies. Even in poverty, these stars remain rich in history and in our hearts.